Hello, hello! I hope this sound is working. I'm gonna just wait until I hear it working before we jump into it. Hello, hello! I hope this sound is working. Okay, seems like things are good. Hopefully it's pretty synced up. Hey guys, it's me, Tom. It says it right here in this area. I see James the Hendronix and Drew Pang 1 are hanging out. I found that five-minute timer script in the new version of OBS, which is super cool. So that way it kind of gives people time to figure out that you're actually live streaming. So it has been a while since I've done a live stream. It's been quite a while, actually. And I think the last one I did was where we were finding out my DNA health results on 23andMe. And so I wanted to do another live stream. I've been wanting to do a question and answer live stream for a long time, but I had no Q's to A, and now I actually have some Q's to A, so that's what we're going to do today. And just my schedule, if I didn't do it today, I wasn't going to get to do it till like Sunday or Monday. So really kind of just wanted to jump on it, have people kind of join in. If you've got any questions, go for it. I've kind of collected some questions, so that way I have a few things, got a few channel updates for you guys, and it's always really nice to just sort of check in and see what's happening with you guys, because posting videos is great and I get to talk to you guys in the comments, but it's not quite the same thing as real-time interaction. And so this is a nice like pulse check, status update to sort of see where you're at, see where I'm at, answer some questions or just totally random questions. So that's pretty much what we're gonna do today. In the meantime, a couple things. I really want to thank everybody. This channel just went over 100,000 views last week. I think it's at like 106, 107,000 now, which is really, really cool. It's really neat to break into that six-figure view thing, because that has nothing to do with subscribers. That's actually just people watching stuff. And that's super cool that you can start something, you know, in your room and have 100,000 different views of that, which is awesome. So thank you to everyone for that. I really, really, really appreciate that. And there's a couple other channel things that maybe we'll get into depending on the questions. Oh, good. Victor Carballo's here. Carballo. You're not late. We're just getting started. So question and answers. I'm just going to jump straight into it with some questions that I've got here. If you want to add to those, if you want to ask your own questions, jump in at any time. That is the point of doing this live. It's summer vacation for another month or so, so I've been making a lot more videos. We're back from our big trip to New York, Iceland, and Switzerland, which I have lots of stuff still from that I need to edit and put together. But it's been really cool. I've been putting like, 4 videos out last week, which was awesome, much more than just the one I normally do. So, oh, yo, Heather's in the house. She is literally in the house. She's like on the other side of this wall, actually. So one thing first, just to get started, is yesterday I posted a video. It's my most recent video. It's called This Is Different, which is just because it's a different video than normal. And in that video, I kind of talk about some stuff that I'm struggling with or have been kind of dealing with YouTube, which was sort of unusual, something I didn't really expect after starting a channel. And I just kind of wanted to address that. And what's been really cool with that video is a lot of the comments have been from other people who have YouTube channels themselves, and they've been saying, oh my gosh, like I feel the same way, like I understand what you're talking about. And that's been really an unexpected benefit for me. I didn't even think anyone would watch that video, but I just wanted to share it, is to know that other people are actually connecting to what I was saying and relating to what I was feeling, and I just appreciate that so much. Part of that video, though, was me talking about using platforms for our benefit and not the benefit of the platform. So for me, what that means is I'm moving away from my every Tuesday upload schedule. And basically, I'm just going to be uploading whenever the hell I want, which is way more fun. I know it's consistency is like the #1 rule on YouTube, but having to have that thing ready all the time. I did it for 10 months. And I'm really glad that I did, but that was adding a source of stress. And like I said in that video, I don't want this to be stressful. I want this to be fun. And it's much more fun to finish a video on a Wednesday afternoon and upload it, or a Sunday night, or take a week off or whatever, and share something when I have something to share. If that's 4 videos in a row, if that's a week with none, that means you're getting stuff that I actually want to share. There's no chance of like, oh my God, I got to get a video out this Tuesday. So here, I'll do a review on this table. It's sturdy and it has legs and it's a table. Like, I want stuff to be good. So that's kind of where we're at. Also, if you've watched any of my lighting videos, I forgot to turn on this light there. Oh, look at that side glow. It's much better. I'm also live streaming on the C100 Mark II that I'm borrowing, which is a completely ridiculous cinema camera. Let me see if I can show you. It's this giant beast of a camera. So I'm trying to do like selfie mode over here. I don't know if you can see that. It's really, really cool. It's one of Canon's cameras that's designed specifically for video and filmmaking and stuff. It's really, really cool. And yeah, like Victor is saying, quality, you said quality over quality, but I'm assuming you meant quality over quantity, which is true. And ideally you have both. You're consistently sharing stuff that is of high quality, but you never want to sacrifice one for the other. So anyway, if you've been wondering why my upload schedule has been sporadic lately, that would be the reason why. Let's jump into these questions. They're not in any specific order. Most of them center around tech, vlogs, or 3D printing, which is sort of what this channel is about. And I just sort of threw them into a folder and opened them. So first thing, too, that I want to say, comments on videos. I try to respond to each one. But today I found quite a few comments that have been held as spam that were not spam at all. And so some of them are a couple weeks old, so I apologize if I was late replying to those. Anyway, jumping in to these questions. The first one is from Print It, who watches a lot of 3D printing videos. And Print It asked, wait. Oh, actually, this was just a comment I wanted to address. Print It said, don't keep your filaments out in the open like you have on top of the Prusa printer back here, which I should take down. And open in the cabinet. They will absorb moisture and won't print nicely. If not in use, take them out of the printer, keep in a closed place. If you don't have a good place, put it in a Ziploc bag with silicone packets. That's a comment that I've been getting a lot on 3D printing videos and live streams, is like, you're doing it wrong by having your filaments out. If you're into 3D printing, that's 100% right. You should not have your filaments sitting out like I have mine out. Or this one just sitting here. That's the next thing on my organization list, is finding good ways to seal these off and close them. Luckily, this room, the reason I have them in here is it's very climate controlled. It doesn't fluctuate in temperature, humidity. So a lot of these have been out for a long time and they still work just fine, but it can be damaging to 3D printing filaments. Just leave them out. So putting them in a bag, putting them in, a sealed container is really, really smart. I am aware of that. But again, I haven't had any issues in this specific environment. I live in the dry desert with central air and heating, so it's pretty much always the same temperature in here. And they look really nice when they're out, and I like having them at the ready, but I understand that. I'm working on it. Again, I had to address in my most recent 3D printing video that I'm not a 3D printing expert. I'm a hobbyist, and so sometimes I make mistakes and do stupid stuff, but, it is what it is. Oh, and let's see. The Hendronics. Heather, congrats on the chamber. Yeah, if you haven't watched Heather Just Create, check out her channel. She recently became a board member of the chamber. And Heather said, yeah, how have you been? James, I've been saying, where have you been? It's been like over a month since a video. We need some. RV Jim D, is there a reasonable humidity level? The main thing is you want to keep your filament dry. I don't know what the specific percentage would be, but drier is better, because if it's getting high humidity, low humidity, fluctuating, then the filament does become very, very brittle, and it snaps and breaks, and the print quality decreases. So, like Print It recommended in this question, if you have nowhere to put them, maybe try a Ziploc bag with a silicone packet just to sort of keep it very controlled, and that is probably the best thing to do. It is what I'm going to do. Maybe this weekend I'll get to that. So thank you, Print It, for all of your questions and views and comments and suggestions, because that's super, super helpful. Victor, PLA is not that much of a problem with moisture, but flexible, are moisture hogs. See, I haven't printed with flexible filaments. I've pretty much just stuck with PLA, a little bit of ABS. I really do want to try doing flexible stuff like Ninja Flex, and so once I get into that, I'll be Mr. by-the-book rule follower with my filaments. All right. Next question. Again, if you guys got questions about whatever, tech vlogs and 3D printing are kind of my area. But, questions about whatever, feel free to ask them. as I go through kind of the ones that I've collected from people. Here's one from Trey who says, I enjoy your videos, keep up the good work, but I have a question. I'm 16 years old and have been interested in 3D printing for a while now. Do you think the Monoprice Select Mini version 2 is worth saving up for my first 3D printer? So this is another 3D printing question. Down here in this cabinet, I have 2 of the Monoprice Mini version 1s. They don't make them anymore. They have the version 2, which is just improved in every way. A lot of people, the reason I wanted to answer this question is a lot of people send me stuff asking for printer recommendations. And for a first 3D printer, even for just like an additional one, the Monoprice Select Mini is by far my favorite recommendation. It's under $200. It goes on sale a lot. It's super reliable. It's super well built. It's got all the features you need. It's got a heated bed. It's really, really a high quality printer at a really low price. If you want to jump into 3D printing, I think it's definitely the way to go. There's some other options, but in terms of, it's kind of like if you're going to play an instrument, I have instruments here. If you want to learn to play the guitar and you go buy the cheapest, crappiest guitar in the store, it'll work, but it's going to be so frustrating to play that you might not end up sticking with it very much because you're going to have a bad experience. And the same goes with 3D printers. If you just sort of buy like the cheapest one or one that maybe needs more work than you're capable of doing when you're just starting out, you're not going to have fun with the hobby as much, and you might give up with it. So the version 1 is so modifiable, but it's also so reliable that you don't have to do that if you don't want. And that is a good way to get into 3D printing because it's going to get you into the hobby. It's a really reliable, safe way to get into it. It's inexpensive. And then from there, you can jump to, you know, crazier stuff as time goes on. So I get that question a lot. What do you recommend for a first 3D printer? Absolutely, the Monoprice Select Minis, hands down, are my recommendation for a first 3D printer. The only downside to them is that the print size is relatively small, but they're called the Mini. So I feel like you can't really complain about that too much. So thank you, Trey, for that question. All right, jumping into comments again. Jim is saying, I thought TPU does not absorb moisture. I have used a Mini. Oh, you've used your Mini a bunch in the last few days. Cool. I don't know much about TPU, so maybe Victor or somebody could enlighten both of us there. But I am really glad to hear you've been using the Mini. For those of you who don't know, when I had my 1,000 subscriber giveaway, I gave away a Monoprice Mini version 2. It was just totally random. It was a really, really fun contest. And Jim was the one that won. He got the printer and has been using it a lot, has modified it a bit, which is super cool, made a video about it. So go check out his channel. Check out that. It's really fun. I love watching people's 3D printing stuff and workshops, and it's awesome. All right, next question. Oh, here we go. Where are you based? I get this one. Oh, my God, why is this just going to restart my computer? Don't do that. My computer, who's running the stream, was just like, it's going to restart now. Anyway, next question. This is from Becker's Reviews, but it's, again, a question that pops up a lot in different comments is, where am I based? I am based in Southern California. I'm in the Coachella Valley, which is Palm Springs, probably the most recognizable city in the valley. There's like 10 cities. The Coachella Music Festival, that's a pretty big deal that happens. I live in Indio, which is where Coachella takes place. It's sort of on the further east end of the valley. So that's where I'm at, Southern California. But that's a question I get a lot, and I think a lot of people ask because they might want to like collab on videos or something. I am very open if there's sort of like a, I don't know what it would be called, but if, you know, if there's somebody I find that we get along really well and have some sort of ideas or similar things, I'm super open to working with people on projects, you know, of all kinds. So, you know, in person, it's really fun to meet people in person and to work on them, to work on stuff together. So I love doing that. If you're in the Southern California area, definitely let me know. But even if you're not, there's always ways. It is, you know, the World Wide Web. So there's ways that, you know, you can collab and work together remotely, which is super cool. So that is where I'm based, Southern California. Oh, Jim is asking, I'm sort of bouncing back and forth. I have a folder of questions just I didn't want to do. The reason I've never done a Q&A before is because, like I said, I had no Q's to A, so I kind of collected a bunch to answer, because you don't want to be like, it's a Q&A session, and then no one asks any questions. So I'm bouncing back and forth between the ones that I have and then if you guys ask any. So Jim is saying, what do you recommend as a FPV first person point of view camera setup? I haven't done a lot of first person stuff, but when I have, I've just gotten the GoPro with the really dorky head mount, which kind of gives you a little headache, but it works pretty well, and then your hands free. One thing that I'd really like to do, I don't know if I'm gonna get to do it this summer or not, is it's kind of a first person thing, but especially when I film stuff here top down, it's really hard, and I have to like set up my tripod in this weird way, and I'm like crouching down on the ground, reaching around it, trying to film, and it's like really hard, and I always knock stuff over. I'd really love to build an overhead shooting rig, and I was kind of thinking of making this corner sort of that, so that way I can just mount a camera up there and do stuff overhead. I don't know if that's kind of the same sort of thing that you're asking for. I was just assuming, Jim, that you were going to do like projects and stuff and first person point of view. So yeah, so my recommendation is a GoPro with the head mount. It's the quickest, easiest, simplest. A lot of us already have GoPros or action cameras of some kind, and the head mount's really cheap. But I am looking into specifically a nice overhead. Just want to make one. It might be some fun summer project that I can work on. So, here we go. Next question. Oh, this was a pile of like 10 questions that were all the same question. So this one is from Kunal Jalan, but I've gotten this question from Tomas Moniz Cazone and more people than I can count. This is literally a question that I get asked all the time, which is, where do you get your music? What's the song in the background for your videos? Almost every video has that question on it. So music. I get all of my music. There's tons of places where you can get them. YouTube has a built-in song library. I'm sure most of you know about that. There are great websites for royalty-free music like incompetech.com, bensound.com, freemusicarchive.org. Those are all great. For the last year, I've actually been subscribed to 2 services. I've been subscribed to artlist.io and Epidemic Sound, both of which I highly recommend. Artlist is easier to navigate, but has a slightly smaller library, but it's easier to kind of search through. Epidemic Sound is a little more tedious to search through, but has a massive library, and Epidemic Sound also has sound effects, which is really, really cool. And they're all royalty-free, and they're subscription-based. They're between $150 and $200 a year, which sounds like a lot, but when you think of how much it used to cost to license music for videos, which sometimes could be $100 or more per song, $200 a year for unlimited access to songs that you can use in perpetuity is great. And they're like real independent artists on the site that have their music there, and I love that. And they're high quality songs. You still hear them, you still hear the songs you're using in someone else's videos sometimes, but not as much as when you use the other sites, which is really cool. And another benefit, Epidemic Sound lets you download the individual instrument tracks. So if there's a song you really like, but you don't like the vocals, or you don't like, there's a weird tambourine happening in the background or something, you can just delete that track and mix it however you want, which is super cool. And that is how, real industry mixing happens when they put music in trailers and movies and TV shows and stuff, is the editors actually get the full-on mix, and they can play with the tracks and take stuff out, which is why sometimes the songs in movies and things sound a little bit different than the album versions you might be used to. So the music one is really important. I'll do a whole video on that because I have found what works really well for me, which is artlist.io, epidemicsound.com. Those are the ones I use, and I really, really recommend them and love them a lot. They're great sites. So that's where all the songs come from. I'd like to, and I should start just putting what song and the song source in the video description. But part of the reason that I liked the subscription service in the beginning was that you didn't have to do that. You don't have to attribute things because you're just paying for the rights for it. And I liked kind of keeping it clean. But since I get that question so much, you know what? I'm actually going to put a note to myself right here on my like description outline that I always use. I'm going to make a note that says add music info. There. So next time I make a video, starting with my next video, I'll put the music information in the description. And in that way you'll know, is it from Artlist? Is it from Epidemic Sound? If you have a subscription, you'll know exactly which song it is if you want to use it, which is fun. So that's definitely a really important part of video making, is you do not want to use copyrighted music at all, and you don't want to try to trick YouTube by like changing it or mixing it or using a karaoke version or something. Like, just do it legitimately, find royalty-free music. You don't necessarily have to pay for it, but if you're serious about it, you know, for me, I've done 110 videos in the last year. It's been really worth having those subscriptions. Plus, I also make videos for my actual job, you know, as a media teacher. And so I use those same subscription services for projects that I do for work as well. And so it's, for me, a no-brainer. For you, it's up to you, you know, if you want to pay for something or not. All right. What's next? We got a few more here. This one is from Bob Brown. I was ready for this one. Tom, what are you using to shoot your videos with? I saw Heather's camera in one of her videos, but never saw what I was using. And he was specifically on the Switzerland video that I uploaded, the first one where it's just Heather and I exploring Switzerland. You see Heather in it with her camera a lot, but you don't see me with mine. That's another question that pops up. People want to know what equipment you use. I love talking about equipment. So I have kind of like my setup here, which I figured I would just go through with you guys, which is pretty simple. So the camera that I've been using, some of you may know since last December when I got it, is the Canon 6D Mark II. I absolutely love this camera. I have one more that I forgot to get, actually. Let me grab it. Two more, really. When I started my channel and all the way up until December, everything on it was made with this, which is the Sony RX100 Mark V. And this, I easily said, was my favorite camera of all time, which was surprising because for years I'd always looked down on point-and-shoot cameras. But the Sony RX cameras are really incredible. This is a really versatile camera. It shoots 4K, does up to 940 frames a second slow motion, so I still use it a lot for a lot of slow motion. It's a great grab and go. The only negative to this camera is that it does not have a microphone jack. The mic that's in it is actually pretty decent, but for some reason it sounds a lot better from behind the camera, so if you're like talking and narrating from behind, it really picks up your voice. If you're in front, it's okay, and if it's windy, it sucks. But the image quality on this is quite tremendous. So I still use this one a lot. It's kind of, these two are sort of like my team. Sony and Canon together at last. And they just came out with the RX100 Mark VI, which has a longer lens, slightly more flippy screen, although it's still like, wow, look at my articulating screen. Oh, that's amazing. And that is helpful, but that's, just make it flip out to the side. Like, come on. Like this. Canon knows what to do. The screen flips out. It goes like that. It goes in all the directions. That's what all cameras should have. But anyway, this camera's great. It is quite expensive. It's still $1,000 for a point-and-shoot camera, but it's really, really a great camera. I used that up until, for like the first 50 videos on this channel are all done with this camera. And then I jumped to the 6D Mark II, which doesn't shoot 4K. There's a whole video I did about that, but is an absolutely incredible camera. This is my favorite point and shoot of all time. This is my favorite DSLR of all time. I love this camera, and what I really love about this camera, it's a full frame sensor. So it's got this big fat sensor inside there. With an articulating screen. There is no other full frame camera that exists that has a fully articulating screen. I'm sure they will be coming out. This is the only one. And this screen is not just helpful for when you're filming yourself, which it is helpful. Of course it is. But especially just doing video, if the camera's down low, if the camera's up high, being able to not just have to like press your head on the ground to see your camera screen is huge. And it's a touch screen, so it's touch to focus, touch shutter, touch settings. It's really responsive. It's like an iPhone style touchscreen. It's very responsive, and I love this camera. And this camera is a tremendous still photo camera. I know people like hated on it when it came out last summer, but they were all wrong. Everyone wanted Canon to be Sony, and they're not. And they're not going to be. They're Canon, which I'll explain that in a second. But when this camera came out, people hated it because it wasn't bursting with completely insane features like Sony does. It was just sort of like, oh, didn't seem exciting. But then after about 5 or 6 months, people started coming around and going like, actually, it's a really good camera. It just wasn't super flashy. And it really, man, being able to shoot incredible video and then literally the flip of a switch, shoot incredible photos. For me, as someone who loves both of those things, this is like the most versatile weapon tool you could have. So I love the 6D Mark II tremendously. So there's that. I held up this Sony camera. I'm borrowing this. This is actually a Sony a7 III, which is their new little like flagship camera. It's a direct competitor to the 6D Mark II. They're the exact same price point at about $2,000. And really, I'll do a whole video comparing these two. And what Sony did with this camera was they clearly came out to just destroy the market and go, if someone's looking for a camera for $2,000, we're going to make something that would make it stupid to buy anything else. And that was clearly their goal. They packed a lot into this camera. It's full frame. Still has Sony's stupid articulating screen that is kind of useless. This is helpful, but this is not helpful. This is just stupid. So hopefully Sony gets rid of that design at some point. This is a really great camera. It's got some incredible features. It shoots 4K. It's got dual memory card slots. Does 120 frames per second slow motion. Can basically film in the dark, take photos in the dark. Microphone jacks out the wazoo. They finally moved. Sony had the record button over here on a lot of cameras for some reason, which makes no sense. They actually moved the record button to the right spot. This really is a tremendous camera. I still really am firmly Canon. And what I've come down to, and I'll explain this in a video I make specifically about these, but if you're stuck choosing cameras, you know, if you're already invested in a system, your decision is kind of made. If you have a bunch of Sony lenses, Sony's the way to go. If you have a bunch of Canon lenses, Canon's the way to go. But if you're just like starting fresh and you don't know where to go, what I have found personally, my 100% subjective biased opinion, is that Sony values innovation at the cost of reliability, whereas Canon values reliability at the cost of fast innovation. So Canon does not come out with, they almost take Apple's approach. They don't come out with like the most advanced features, every camera just like, oh my God, whereas Sony does, you know, in-body image stabilization, crazy 4K stuff, like any new feature, they'll just throw it into a camera and you're like, oh my God, how do they do that? So if you want cutting edge, Sony times 10 is the way to go. Reliability though, not that Sony cameras aren't reliable. They're just a little finicky. Even on the trip that I just came back from to Iceland and Switzerland and stuff, in the cold, the batteries start acting weird. The battery life, because these cameras have these insane features, the battery life on them kind of sucks. So you need tons of batteries. They do shoot beautiful 4K footage, but it's really hard on cameras to shoot 4K footage, so they overheat quite frequently. This one can only do 5 minutes most at a time of 4K before it starts overheating and get really weird. This one fixed that issue quite a bit, but still gets finicky and fussy with 4K. Whereas with Canon, pop in a battery, it lasts forever. I've had these in the wind, rain, snow, dust, hot, cold, everything, like covered in water, covered in dirt, and they just work. And I've run high school media programs using Canon cameras for 7 years. And even the rebels stand up to the daily abuse of teenagers. So for me, that has me sold on Canon. This camera actually belongs to that media program, so we are experimenting with some Sonys, We'll see how they hold up. They're very nice cameras. They're, in my experience though, the reliability, there's just no comparison. So that's kind of the big difference. Canon might be a little behind in technology, but they're leaps and bounds ahead in terms of just durability, reliability. Sony crushes it with innovation and bringing in all these new features. So, you know, they push each other in good ways. It's just kind of whatever you need for your stuff. Dan, I see you have a question. Go ahead and answer it. I'm just going over what cameras I use. That was a long explanation as to why I use the 6D Mark II. The lens that I've been using a lot with this is the 16-35 f4, which I did a whole video review about this lens. Canon has a few 16-35s, and I explained in the video, this is the only one that has image stabilization, but it's also f4 instead of f2.8, so it's not quite as fast as the other ones. But this lens is a great... Before this, I always used the 24-105 when I was out and about because it's just so versatile. This lens, 16-35, isn't quite as versatile, but especially if you're out like vlogging and doing that kind of stuff, the ability to go to 16 millimeters, especially on a full frame camera, is awesome. It's really, really helpful. And if you're, if you're filming yourself or talking to someone, you don't have to have the camera extended really far to get your view. The only thing I notice is if you have the camera at eye level or lower, it really like extends your body and makes you look like you gained 50 pounds. So you really have to hold it up high so that way you don't look like suddenly you became obese. But this has been a great combo. Actually, I haven't been using the hood very much because in another video I did this week, talked about filters. And so I have all the Polar Pro filters that I mentioned. Luckily they're durable, that I mentioned in the video. And then a circular polarizer, a variable ND filter. Pretty much anytime I'm outside, especially doing video, need that ND filter so that way you can still shoot at 24 frames a second. And it looks really nice and things aren't crazy overexposed and stuff. So this has been my main camera setup for quite a while. Let's see here. I'll finish that, but I'm going to jump into Dan real quick since he's asking a question about ordered a monoprice select mini. Is wondering if there's anything I should know for the setup process. Dan, not really. It's pretty self-explanatory. It comes with very little filament. It comes with like a little test thing of filament. So if you don't have a spool of filament, order one, because it doesn't come with enough to actually really do any printing. And then there's some basic tools you might need, like a scraper, some pliers, stuff hopefully you already have around the house. Pat, the guy who sent me the glass beds for the 3D printers that I reviewed a while ago, he's actually sending me, he put together this 3D printing toolkit. So he's sending me that to check out, and that I think will have all the main stuff in it. I forget exactly what's included right now, but you kind of need just some basic tools. But in terms of setup for the printer, you don't need to update anything. You can literally plug it in, load it with filament, and then print the CAT file that comes on the SD card, and you should be up and running in no time. It's a really tremendous printer. Before I got mine, I watched Chuck Hellebuck's. If you go to Chep 3D Printing, his channel, I watched his review on the Mini. It's really, really good. His whole channel is tremendous. So maybe go watch that video if you haven't already, just to like get a feel for the printer. But it's the reason I love it is there's not really much you need to know. You can just kind of jump straight into it. Be careful not to touch the nozzle because it's really, really hot. Good luck with it. Hope it does. Hope it does great. And like Jim says, don't ham fist the micro USB port. He had to fix his micro USB port on his mini version too. Other advice, have fun. Don't try to rush anything. 3D printing is a process. Sometimes there will be issues. You'll probably have to take parts of it apart at some point, but that's part of the hobby, which I'm sure you're aware of at this point. If you don't have one, buy a mini SD to SD adapter. I can't remember if it comes with one or not. But the big thing is filament. Like, get some filament. And finding filament that you like, that works and prints well, that can be kind of like tricky. Hatchbox I've had really good luck with. 3D Solutech I've had really good luck with. And also AIO Robotics I've had very good luck with for just PLA. Yeah, so those are kind of ones I stick with. That's really my advice. Have fun. Keep it super fun. Check out Tinkercad for your own designs, and just binge watch Chuck Hellebuck's just Chep 3D printing is his channel. Binge watch that, and you'll be ready to go in no time. So back to cameras. How are you going to film these things? This is the main thing. I even use this in here a lot. I'm actually using a 16-35 right now to film this. Audio though. So my big gripe with this one was lack of microphone input. Of course, the 6D Mark II has a microphone input, and I've been using the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus, which is a massive improvement over the VideoMic Pro. The sound quality is the same, but they did a few very key features that make this my favorite microphone in the world. And then I put a dead cat on it, so that way in the wind and stuff, you don't hear the wind as much. But the things they did with this microphone, first thing, they made the cord detachable so you can switch it out. When I have it mounted up here for my recorded videos, I can just have a long cord that runs into the camera. When it's on the camera, I can have this short little cord. If the cord gets damaged, you just replace it. On the previous version, the cord was built in, so if the cord got damaged, you had to send the microphone in for repair or just get a new one. That sucked. So huge improvement there. They also got rid of the weird 9-volt battery thing, and now there's a rechargeable lithium-ion battery in here that you can use. You can swap out batteries, but it lasts 100 hours. You just charge it with USB. It's beautiful. If you ever used the VideoMic Pro in the past, changing the battery, it was almost impossible not to break the microphone while you're changing the battery. And then one of the most important features, it now turns on automatically with the camera. So when you have it plugged in and you turn on the camera, the microphone turns on. When you turn off the camera, the microphone turns off. And it's beautiful. Previously, that didn't happen, and so sometimes you would forget to turn the microphone on, you'd have no sound. Or more often than not, you forget to turn it off, and then your battery would die, and it would be a 9-volt battery, which who has a 9-volt battery hanging around? I need to unscrew a little part on here. And so it was really hard to get batteries if you had that issue. This microphone solves all of those problems. So I really, really love this microphone. I have this little adapter to mount it. I have a boom arm up here that it normally is on when I'm filming in here. I use this thing for everything now. And it just mounts on top of the camera. Sometimes if I'm doing explanation type stuff, I'll actually mount it backwards so that way it just points directly at me. Plugs into the camera. You're good to go. This is a terrific setup for on-the-go filmmaking. Sometimes I'll swap out a 35mm lens, a 24-105 like I mentioned. And very important, if you're using stuff to film, I love this because it just looks really good. You get shallow depth of field, you have full manual control over everything. The 6D Mark II has crazy good autofocus, which is something I never had in a DSLR before, so I love that. But then you need some kind of support. If you're doing YouTube stuff, I'm sure the GorillaPod looks very familiar to you. These are really good tripods. They're super versatile. They can, you can mount them to hang them on stuff, off of stuff. They can be used everywhere. They're very good just hand support. They give the camera more weight and stability as you're walking around with it. They also, what I really like, not every tripod and mount has this. The bottom of the plate has a little tab, so that way you don't need a screwdriver to attach it to your camera. You can attach it securely with just your fingers. The problem with these though is they could be a little stronger. They sometimes tip, fall over. It's supposed to hold a camera far heavier than this, but sometimes this camera pushes it to its limit, which is annoying. Like right now, if I were to try to set this up, it'll set up, but as it sort of sits here, it will kind of like sink down a little bit, which can be annoying. They tip a lot. If you ever watch Casey's videos, his camera falls over in like every video for that reason. But they have nice ball heads on them. You just kind of got to make sure everything is nice and secure. These are super versatile. And then that's basically, that's a pretty big setup, but it's also a crazy versatile setup. It's heavy, but it's not really that bad. It's not really that big. I've walked many, many miles with this setup, and it's no big deal. So I highly recommend something that looks like this. Gets you great visuals, great audio, great stability. There you go. Hey, Tipsy Walks here. Oh no, he asked me a math problem. If two cars leave from Ohio at the same time and drive in opposite directions, which car will reach Disneyland Disney World first, assuming they're driving at constant speeds in opposite directions? So the one that's heading towards Disneyland would get there first. The one that's heading towards the Atlantic Ocean wouldn't get there. And I did say no math problems. I'm an English major. Would I recommend getting the branded GorillaPod or getting an off-brand version? 100% get the genuine branded version. They're about $100. And like I just mentioned, you still kind of have issues with them. They're not crazy, you still got to watch out. I would not want to put an expensive camera lens and microphone on an off-brand version of this. That's just kind of my thing. Jim's asking which camera is best for shooting wolves. A camera with a gun on it. Never mind. I was using this one when I got chased by wolves through the forest. Wildlife, use a telephoto lens so you don't have to get near it. Yeah, so these are $100, which is a lot, but your channel's growing. Get those super chats. Get that monetization. Start a Patreon. But here's why I wanted to talk about this. What I've been using more recently than the GorillaPod, Heather can back me up on this, is this, which is a Benro travel tripod. It's just a straight up regular tripod. It's bigger. It's not that much difference in size, but here's why I've been using this a lot. Once you're carrying something that large around, I've almost been using this just more than the GorillaPod for a few reasons. I got this for the big trip that I went on. I was looking for a small, lightweight travel tripod. This is extremely lightweight. It's got some sweet blue metal on it. It's very versatile. I use this thing all over New York City, all over Iceland, all over Switzerland, all over the Coachella Valley. I'm going to do a whole review video on this thing because I cannot tell you how much I love this tripod. I feel stupid how much I love a tripod, but I love it so much. It's so well thought out, and it extends really tall and really quickly. So it can go about that tall, and then this can go out. So it goes easily. I'm 5'10.5". It goes almost as tall as me, which is nice. It has this really nice ball head mount on it. And I have been using this so much for still photos and videos, especially on the trips that I went on. I wanted to do a lot of landscape photography, long exposure photography, so I needed a really reliable tripod. This fit the bill. Has the same thing as the GorillaPod, where the mounting plate has a thumb handle, so you can just attach it without any tools. That's very important, because you do not want your cameras to fall off the mounts. And so honestly, for most of the trip that I went on, I didn't expect this, but this ended up being the setup that I carried around the most, which is probably not something most people would want to carry around, because it's a little big. But you can set up a shot anywhere. You don't need, with this, you can set up a low shot pretty easy. You can hang it from something. But if you're in the middle of a parking lot or a field or something, your camera's gonna be this high off the ground. This, you can just set up a shot wherever you want it. I really love it. And then I started doing this stupid thing where I made my extreme vlogging rig by extending a couple of the legs and then walking around with it kind of like this, which looked stupid in person, but let's face it, if you're making a YouTube video, you're probably gonna look a little silly anyway, so just own it. I was like doing this thing, which looked really dumb, but framed the shot so well and like was so stable that kind of became like, it's a little much. Again, I wouldn't expect everyone to do that, but yeah, I love this tripod very, very much. So this is what I've been using. The legs also extend out, so you can go really low with the tripod. You can even mount the camera upside down. You can take this center column out and flip it. This leg, I'm talking about a tripod for a really long time, but whatever, I'm enthusiastic about it. This leg that has the pad on it actually unscrews, and then it comes with a whole separate mount where then you can mount this as a monopod head. Then you just have a monopod with you, which is super cool. And I can't believe I actually used this feature, but I did, and Heather made fun of me, but it's fine. This tripod came with the quirkiest feature I've ever seen on a camera product, which is this. It came with this wooden knob. And I was like, what is that for? And it screws on this leg. Like, why would I want a wooden knob? And then you extend the leg out, and now you have a walking stick, which seems stupid, but as Heather and I were geocaching up a hill in Switzerland, which is a very cool sentence to say, I was like going to fall because I had my camera backpack and all my stuff, and then I pulled this out and was like actually using it to hike through the mountains, and it was so cool to have. I was really excited about that. So man, I'm gonna do a whole review video on this tripod, but I have been loving using this, and I've been using it more than the Joby. And again, I don't expect the average person to lug around a whole tripod, but man, the versatility is insane. So that was a long answer to the question from Bob Brown of what are you shooting your videos with? So that's what I use, but I love camera gear. So, you know, like Heather is 1000% on story and workflow. And so she needs something that's quick, easy, reliable, and gets the job done without her having to spend time doing everything I just did. So she uses the Canon S110 point and shoot, which is ultra high quality and looks incredible even on televisions and stuff. You guys are arguing about where Ohio is. Oh, and look at this. My first 2 super chats of my life. 143. You didn't need to attach the message, Heather. I understood what I meant. 143 is one of my favorite numbers. 4 is right in the middle, but 143. It's Mr. Rogers' I love you number, because I 4 3 I LOVEYOU 1 4 and 3 words. James, you're paying me 143 because you love me. That is why. And as Heather said, this is the first live stream where I have super chat enabled. Those are my first super chats ever. Wow, look at me making money on YouTube over here. Yeah, so let's almost at 1403 subs too. Oh yeah. YouTube sub count has been super weird. Like if I look at it on the YouTube page or my phone or the iPad app, it's all different numbers. So and I think Heather had the same problem. Also, YouTube did a thing where for some reason 3 weeks ago my channel's views got cut in half for like no reason overnight, which is super fun. That's all the stuff where I'm like, it's getting in the way of just enjoying making videos. So anyway, let's talk about super chats. Thank you guys very, very much for super chats. This is the first live stream where that's enabled. The way that YouTube works is once you hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time within a 12-month period, you're eligible to be monetized, which means basically you can do super chats and you can have ads played on your channel, which I almost want to do a whole video on this. When I started my channel, I was adamant that I would never add an ad to my videos. But as time went on, basically, once I hit 1,000 subscribers in June, I submitted the application to be approved. 4,000 hours was actually not too difficult. Honestly, I would kind of imagine, Tipsy Walk, that your channel's close to it. I don't know if you're using an extension like vidIQ or TubeBuddy or any of those things that tell you where you're at. But it was not as difficult as I thought it would be to get to 4,000 hours. The 1,000 subscribers was way harder. And once you do that, you submit an application to YouTube. For me, it took about 6 weeks to hear back, and then they approve you. I just submitted it, and then I was like, once I'm approved, I can decide what to do or not. Tipsy Walk, you have 1.6. See, though, for me, it was like a bell curve. Like, it took forever to get like 400 hours, 500, 800, 1,000, and then it just went. And so I've heard other people have had that experience, and I hope you do too. Especially with what you do, lots of cooking and stuff, being able to monetize your channel would be super helpful. So I'll watch all your videos a bunch and help you get there, because it is helpful. And luckily, what I found, when you're able to put ads on your videos, YouTube does give you control over how the ads are displayed. They don't give you control over what ads. So if you hate a product, it might be advertised on your channel. But for me, I took the option to do the skippable ads in front of some videos, which I know is kind of annoying, but at least you can skip through them. You don't have to watch the whole thing. There's no mid-roll ads, and there's no overlay ads. I will never put a mid-roll ad in my video. Like, if I do, please unsubscribe like right away, because that is annoying when you're watching a video and suddenly you have 5 seconds of someone shouting at you about chocolate frosted flakes, and then it's back to like a camera review, and you're like, did I just have a stroke or something? So I will never do mid-roll ads. Some people do, that's your thing. But ads before, most people don't even really notice them because they're so used to them, which is, I feel kind of bad about. But the reason I chose to do it was I've really, in the last several months, been interested in Jack Conte from Patreon after he did his whole Casey Neistat thing, and then I really started watching a bunch of his videos. Heather saw him at VidCon, met him, watched his thing, talked to him for a bit. And his whole thing with Patreon, he really drove home the point of, you're making something that has value, and there's nothing wrong with being compensated for that, which kind of struck a chord with me. And the YouTube ad program, I mean, like, literally, here we go. So I've had ads enabled for like a couple of weeks now, and I have earned $5.64. So I've earned like almost more in these 2 super chats than in all the ad things. But it's interesting to kind of see where that goes. I've also got some Amazon affiliate links, which are really helpful when I do a $1,000 lens review and someone decides to buy the lens because of me. Like, sure, like, use an Amazon affiliate link. It doesn't affect you, but then I get a little bit of a percentage of the sale. Like, that's a fair thing. And then I did set up a Patreon. There's a link in the description. I just set it up, but I haven't really like shared it out other than putting the link in things. Because I really love Patreon's idea of people who want to support you can, and they're not forced to, and that you're spending your time, energy, and effort making something that has value, and it's okay to be compensated if you're making something that has value, even if you're doing it for fun. Because it takes time, energy, effort, money to produce these videos, and it's cool to get something back from that. I mean, like, obviously it's never going to be like my day job or a full-time income or anything, but it's pretty cool to go, man, I made something that earned some money. Like, I've been doing the Amazon affiliate program since mid-May. I've gotten almost $300 from that, which, $100 a month is not great income, but it's totally passive income that as soon as someone clicks those links and buys anything, you get a little chunk of the sale. So that's great. Patreon is there. The YouTube ads I don't like, but it's just kind of part of the game. And a big reason I did it too is to kind of do the experiment of, I went back and monetized a bunch of videos that weren't getting very many views, and I kind of wanted to wait a couple weeks and see if those videos started getting views, because YouTube says monetization does not affect how it promotes and suggests and search results videos and stuff. But there are a lot of people who say, in their experience, it does. If they have which I kind of understand. If you have a video that's monetized, it's going to make money for YouTube. and a little bit for you, versus a video that's not, and YouTube has the option to recommend one or the other, it makes sense that they would recommend the one that's going to earn them money versus the one that won't. They say that their algorithm does not do that, so that is their official stance. I like to believe what they say, but I wanted to run my own experiment and see, like, hey, I've got these videos from 5 or 6 months ago that have very low view counts and don't get watched. I'm going to monetize them and suddenly see, like, did they get 100 views in a week or two? Like, so report back on that experiment. Tipsy Walk, I need to rededicate myself to putting videos out there on a more regular schedule and live stream more, because that's what seems to be helping. Live streaming is scary. I'm really liking this, but I'm definitely at a point where every time I upload something or stream something, I lose subscribers. So kind of kills your confidence a little bit. BK Hobby, I'm here for the drums. I'll do a drum outro in a few minutes when we wrap up the stream, because I haven't played my drums today. So we'll do that. Oh yeah, never mind. You missed it. Like Jim said, I finished. It's the coolest. There's like iron butterfly in here. Tipsy Walk, need to get my video quality up to as good as I can get and produce more quality stuff. Video quality is important. It's a thing that I really love, but honestly, your audience is there for you and your content and your story. And so there's so many people who film in crappy conditions and get crazy audience retention because of them. If you can do both, if you have great story, great content, and great production value, you know, that's probably the best of both worlds that most people would like. But as long as what is first is you and what you're saying and what you're sharing, what you're communicating, it's always better than I say this as I'm surrounded by gear. But it is always better if you have a phone and that's what you're filming with. Filming with your phone is so much better than not filming at all. That's how I feel about that. Hendronix, all right, 143 Tom, gotta go. Congrats. Yes, hope to see you soon. Upload some videos. Jim, is there an easy way to copy paste tags into a video? What I do, I have a separate computer over here, so I can't share any of this stuff because this computer's just streaming to avoid any lagging issues. What I do is I just have a notes document. I stole this strategy from Heather, so go check out Heather Just Create if you haven't already. I just have a notes document where I do descriptions for all the videos, and it has all the links, and at the bottom it has tags, and I just sort of have like, I have a chunk of tags that I use in every video that are just like Enthusiasm Project, Tom Buck, Indio, Digital Media, So Darn Tom, like just sort of things that would apply to any video. Oh, actually, there we go. I just updated a little bit. I put those into my description, and then for each video I go through and try to find tags that are relevant to that. Heather taught me all how to do this. She has a course, Zero to YouTube Hero. You should check it out because it'll explain how to do all this stuff correctly and actually get a YouTube channel up and running and thriving. And as she just said, live stream equals watch time. Watch time is greater than subs. That is true. That's YouTube's most important metric. But then for tags to find them, you can, the tag box in YouTube does just allow you to paste tags as long as they're separated by a comma. And then I just go on YouTube and search. I use vidIQ, although now I'm looking for another extension that might be a little bit better. But vidIQ is a Chrome extension, but even without it, you can just search, you know, if you did a video on the Monoprice Select Mini, you go to YouTube, type in Monoprice Select Mini, see how many search results there are. Excuse me. If there's, 500 results, don't use that tag because no one's searching for it. If there's 500 million results, don't use that tag because no one's going to find your video. If there's 500,000 or a million results, that's a good number. And then the Chrome extensions will kind of tell you how many people are looking for it versus how many other videos have it. And so you can kind of find tags that have a lot of search volume but low competition, and those are the ones you want. It'll sort of tell you where you rank for tags as well. But I kind of just have a running living document that I use as my show notes and descriptions and stuff. And I try to actually do descriptions for each video. I don't know if anyone actually reads them, but I try to put in the info, put in the links, make it interesting, entertaining, because YouTube is a search engine and it will search anything. So even if it's not in a tag, if you have a key phrase that's in your description, that will still show up as a search result. So yeah, easy way to copy paste tags. You probably have tags that are relevant to every video that you can just paste in the tag box, and then searching for the best ones for each specific video. There's a whole art to it. Again, that's sort of Heather's specialty. If you go to zero2youtubehero.com, you can kind of see like how she outlined that. But she taught me everything I know about that stuff. So everything I said, I'm just parodying from what she has told me. Alrighty. James just left Hendronix, but the next question was from him. It says, how do you create the black border around the frame? Is that an option with the Osmo? He was talking about a mobile filmmaking video I did, but he's talking about letterboxing. I letterbox a lot of stuff in my videos, and I know I don't letterbox it correctly. I just add the thing over it. It's not really changing the aspect ratio. It's just kind of, I like the way it looks. I like composing things in that frame. The black bars at the top and bottom. I use Final Cut Pro, which has a very easy, slick letterboxing option that you choose the aspect ratio and even fine tune it and change the color of it. I know in Premiere, you kind of have to add in, you almost have to just add in like manually black bars at the top and bottom. But I use Final Cut Pro. I edit in Final Cut Pro. I use Premiere a little bit just to kind of force myself to, but I really love Final Cut Pro. I respect Premiere a lot. I just really love Final Cut, and especially now, you know, it's not 2012 anymore, where Final Cut Pro is in 2018. I feel is equally on par to Premiere, for sure. All right, next question. Rock entry. I just got a Rode Video Micro, but need to figure out how to mount it on my DJI gimbal. I don't want to carry around a huge rig, though. Any suggestions? Yes, so this is for people who are filming on their phones. Let me grab my Osmo real quick, which is not a euphemism. All right, so the Osmo, which I've been talking about in a lot of videos. Oh, look, it's got this neat 3D printed clip. Wow, I wonder if there was a video on how to make that. The Osmo, I need to grab one more thing. Is a fantastic tool. The version, the Osmo 4K that comes with its own camera actually has a microphone jack right here. This version doesn't. This is the mobile one where it's for your phone to go in there. I'll turn it on, why not? We'll do the whole deal. This is I can't believe this thing's only $130. Like, I know only sounds a little like only $130, but for what it does, and considering it used to be $300, it's a great deal. So basically what Rock Entry is asking is, he's been using his gimbal a lot. He's been using his phone to film. And he bought a little mic, the Rode Video Micro, which is a small, tiny version of this. But what to do? If you have a mic that's plugged into your phone to get good audio, how do you walk around with it? What do you do? And so what I would recommend, actually, this is a Velo brand thing. There's a bunch of these they're like tripod mounts, accessory mounts. I got this one from B&H. And basically it has a tripod mount, and then you can even mount it on a tripod. It has an accessory shoe, which you can take off, and it'll just give you another quarter 20 screw. What I would recommend is just popping this into the bottom of the Osmo Mobile 2, which now has a tripod mount. You don't even lose the mount, because now you can still mount it on a tripod. And then your microphone should have a mount of some kind, and you can just attach it right there. And then, I don't have a headphone jack, but you would then attach it to your phone, which you might need a cord that has some slack, since the phone's going to be moving around. You don't want the cord to pull on the gimbal at all. But basically, you would kind of end up with a rig like this, which looks a little, actually, it looks kind of cool, I think. But it's like, if you're going to carry something this big, why not just use a big camera? But I think the obvious answer for a lot of people is they don't have a big camera, and so their phone is their only option. And rather than spending thousands of dollars on a big camera, spending $130 on a gimbal makes a lot more sense. And the Rode Video Micro that he's talking about in the question is $60, which is a great little microphone for $60. It's really, really good. And then you'd have something that kind of looks like this, and this is what you walk around with, and you could still mount it on a tripod. You can even mount it on a GorillaPod. You could still do the whole thing. So this would probably be a pretty dang effective mobile filmmaking rig, with just this little part here, this bracket. This accessory shoe bracket is probably what you should Google, or use the Amazon affiliate link and go search for it. I think they're like $15. Sometimes Best Buy even just has them in store. So that's what I would recommend. Like RV Gym, all my videos are shot with iPhone SE and use a mic and a PS4 earbud mic. My favorite part about camera stuff, is, especially now, is you can piece together the kit that works best for you. And I think that's so cool, because this might be the best rig for one person, but something totally different for somebody else. And you don't have to go out and buy the biggest and best. You can kind of look at what you have, and maybe you need to buy an adapter or a bracket, but you can probably take a lot of things you already have, like a PS4 mic, and then bring it into what you're doing. And Jim, yes, these are, the Rode mics are basically all directional. There's a shotgun mic that is really good at pulling sound from distances, and the Video Micro that I was talking about in the question I was answering is, I think it's a directional mic. It might be omnidirectional. Yeah, they're all directional, because typically you want the sound from wherever you're pointing the camera rather than just like behind you. And some mics, of course, give you the option to choose that. Like the Yeti microphone that I use for my streams and some voiceovers and stuff, of course, gives you tons of options for where to collect the sound from. So mics are fun. I always tell my students at school that audio is half a video. So it's equally as important as the visuals. Don't underestimate it. And maybe even more so, because people will stick... If you have a video that looks bad but sounds good, people will watch that longer than they will a video that looks good and sounds bad. And that's totally counterintuitive. It's not what you would think when you think of making a video, but the sound makes such a huge difference. So anyway, that's my recommendation for how to use a gimbal and a microphone with your phone. Let's see, I got a couple questions. What do I want to go through? Someone was asking on the 3D printers, when you add a glass bed, does the heated bed still work? The answer is yes, the heated beds still work, even if there's glass. People asking about Procreate, which still use on the iPad Pro. Use Procreate for everything. And you can actually, someone was asking, they wanted to do Procreate tutorials, but they didn't have a camera. Procreate lets you stream directly to YouTube from the app. And it just uses the iPad's microphone. So you could even plug in like your earbuds that have the little mic on them, and you could talk and do this. It won't show you, although the iPad would have a camera, so you could stream. So you could actually do an entire stream with Procreate straight from the iPad itself, which I think I've done once or twice, or at least, I don't know if it was a public stream or not. I at least tested it. So there we go. Procreate. I want to do a whole bunch more Procreate tutorials because I love Procreate. It's like the best $10 you could spend. People are asking, this is from Movement for BJJ, asking for free video editing apps. So I use Final Cut Pro. It's not free. Final Cut Pro is $300. If you're a student or a teacher, it's $150. The benefit to Final Cut is you buy it once and it's good forever. I purchased it in 2011 and I'm still getting the updates in 2018. So it's a really good use of my $150. Whereas Premiere is monthly now. So depending on if you're a student or a teacher, it's between $20 and $30 a month to get Premiere. The benefit there, maybe it's a benefit, is Adobe constantly updates it. So you always have the most up-to-date version. Final Cut gets like one major release a year pretty much, sometimes smaller updates. The downside to that though is because Adobe updates Premiere so much, it often negatively affects the reliability of the program. So sometimes people don't want it to be updated if they're in the middle of a project. But those both cost money. Obviously, if you have a Mac, iMovie comes for free. If you don't have a Mac, DaVinci Resolve is a really powerful free editor. And I'm just learning about something, actually let me look it up. It's called WeVideo. I've been using this in the school district a lot. Interesting. WeVideo is an online video editor where basically you upload your videos to their, to your account there, and then you just edit it online, almost like Google Docs for editing. It's not free. Oh, it's not crazy expensive. It ranges from $5 a month to $30 a month for a business that has like team licensing and 4K and stuff. So wevideo.com. The thing about WeVideo is, I think you could use it with a Chromebook, which is really a big deal for a lot of teachers and students. You could also use it with a lower powered computer because you're not installing the apps natively, you're just accessing it online. So WeVideo is a new thing that's coming out. And then Adobe, let me think, is this a thing? There we go. If you search up Adobe Rush, you can actually sign up to join the beta, which is Adobe's version of iMovie, basically, which is a really, really cool. I haven't really used it too much, or at all, actually, but I know people who have, and they are blown away by what you can do with Adobe Rush. It's, I think it's kind of going to knock iMovie, a lot of people out of iMovie, which is smart on Adobe's part because then they're going to go into Premiere instead of Final Cut. So right now it looks like they're taking people to sign up to be beta testers because it's not officially out yet. So if you look up Adobe Rush, you could sign up to be a beta tester there. DaVinci Resolve is free. WeVideo is inexpensive online video editing. So lots of options. I'm just a Final Cut person. And the last question that I had was from Sandra, who leaves super thoughtful, wonderful comments on every video. I don't know how she finds the time or energy. And she just asked, what are my thoughts about public schools that are lagging behind in digital media? I've just spent the last 3 days, and I have a video about this, redoing the computer lab on my campus, in my classroom. And Heather was asking before I did that, like, do you have to wire it? Is someone going to come in and do this? And the answer is no. Like, basically, I had wanted to reconfigure the whole lab. It was just terrible. It was set in rows. It wasn't wheelchair accessible. It wasn't a good use of the space. But it was never going to happen unless I just did it. So I went in on my summer break, outside of my contract, spent days doing that. Got a lot of weird bug bites, which aren't super fun. And that kind of answers my, like, I don't know that public schools are really lagging behind that much in access to digital media. I think that access to it, at least in California, is definitely being recognized as important. California is the only state I have experience teaching in. But where the gap really lies is in kind of how it's valued and how it's taught. And the fact that students have these with them, and I regularly hear teachers say, I can't do media projects because I don't have access to cameras and computers. Put your phones away. And it's like, you're literally, like, almost every kid is coming to class with a video production studio, a digital media studio in their pocket. And you're telling them to put it away, and then you're complaining because you can't do the media projects that you want to do. So that's kind of shifting that mindset from the ultra traditional, like, everybody sits in rows and reads from a textbook, to the same way you would put together a camera rig, where I just mentioned this, like, you look at the things you have, you look at what you need to do, and you figure out how to combine them to do that. You do the same thing in the classroom. Like, my first school I taught at, I taught English, and I had a classroom that literally, when I took over the classroom, it didn't even have a bookshelf in it. It didn't have a teacher's desk. I didn't have a chair. There were barely enough desks for students, and that was it. It was a barren room. So when you see videos of my current classroom, it's a total step up from that. But our rules, so there's no access to anything. I taught English, and part of teaching English is you have to have students do research papers. And we didn't have any, we didn't have books. Like, you couldn't do research. But the school did have a computer lab, a really nice computer lab, but you had to sign up to use the computer lab. And so, I had 4 or 5 English classes or whatever it was. And if you need kids to find their topic and then research their topic and find their sources and do all that. You need 8 days in the computer lab for each of your 5 classes. There was no way to book that time in the computer lab. Like, literally, the school didn't have the resources to let me do the assignment that I was required to do. And the school rule was that students weren't allowed to use phones. This was in 2011. Phones had to be kept away during class. And that was where I was like, okay, we can't use the computer lab, but we need to look up stuff. You have phones, but you're not allowed to use them. So that rule is stupid. You are allowed to use your phones for this project. And then as a teacher, it was my job to walk around and like make sure kids were using phones for that. Like for, you know, researching stuff. And of course, there's always the kid who's super slick at like, I'm on Twitter and then like I'm gonna push a button real quick and now I'm gonna be on, no, it looks like I'm on, you know, research site or whatever. Okay, fine. That's gonna come out in their project when they don't turn in a good project because they manage their time terribly. That's part of the lesson of that. But using what you have, and there were a lot of kids that just had iPods with Wi-Fi, so I set up my phone as a mobile hotspot so they could latch on to my service and do that. And that was the fact that I was able to have a class of students do online research in a room where we didn't have enough chairs for the kids, to me makes, and that was in 2011, that was 7 years ago. To me, that trumps any argument of a teacher who's like, but I don't have the support that you have. It means you're not thinking about it the right way, or you're not looking at what you actually have. At the very least, kids have, these phones are infinitely better than what we had in 2011. Just teach your kids to film sideways, have them go film video projects, have them edit it on their phone, have them record podcasts, have them do photo documentation of an assignment, I think, sorry, I'm going off on a whole thing here. So basically with Sandra's question, schools are lagging behind. I think there are schools that are lagging behind, but I mostly see what is lagging behind more than the schools is the teacher mindset. I think a lot of schools and a lot of districts, if there's a teacher or a department or a school that really wants to push for something, there's people who want the students and teachers to succeed, and they'll do what they need to do to make that happen, but they're not going to do it if people don't ask for it. So I think it's really up to the teachers to sort of recognize what they need, what they already have, and just sort of like beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. Like, do something and see how it works. And she said, should teachers protest the lack of support for new media, and what small changes can they make? That's kind of what I mentioned there. I don't think teachers should protest. If there's a district that is, you know, totally just not providing anything for their students, then yeah, they should do what they need to do to get their students what they need to have to be successful. But I really feel, at least in California, most places in California, that, you know, school districts aren't out to be terrible. Administrators aren't out to be awful. You know, even of course there's less than great people everywhere, but by and large, everyone's out to do good things. Sometimes they just don't know what you need, and it's up to teachers to really understand what they need, communicate that, work with what they have, work within their limitations, and figure it out. Because that, I mean, that's what you're trying to teach your kids to do anyway, so that's what you should be doing in the classroom every day. You can't be like, I have all these great ideas for projects, but people won't just give me everything I need and set it up for me, so I guess I can't do it. Like, no, you're a failure. Sorry, I'm gonna take a break from this. Got all fired up there. Okay. I mean, like, the red fog descended over my vision there. There we go. Okay, Heather's finishing up some work. Good to know the Delta compares against the Prusa. Oh, thanks, Stephen. I just wanted to know how good the MP Delta compares against the Prusa. I don't remember if I did that specific comparison. I did a live stream where I compared one of the mono prices to the Prusa. I don't remember which. And there's a couple of my 3D printing videos where I do talk about it. The print quality is actually really on par. The Prusa is much more reliable and obviously has a bigger print surface. But the Delta print quality is astonishing for a $150 printer. It easily, if you put them side by side, you know, like having worked with both printers so closely, I could probably spot the difference. But if you haven't done that, you'd have a really hard time telling. The difference is how easy it is to get that quality. The Delta takes a bit more work to get printing reliably, whereas the Prusa just like, it's like what 3D. Oh, it's so good. It just works. I love it. It's my favorite. I love that printer so much, and that's the Mark II. There's even a better one out now. So the Delta overall print quality results compare really highly and favorably with the Prusa. Obviously, the Prusa is a better printer, but the Prusa is hundreds of dollars more expensive. So the Delta is an exceptional printer for the price. It's just a little quirky and not crazy reliable, which is why I lean towards the Mini rather than the Delta, because the Mini also gets exceptional results, but is significantly more reliable and easy to deal with. But the Delta is a really fun printer. It's just a little quirky, which is pretty much what I've said in all my videos about it. All right, you're welcome, Steven. So, wow, this was a long live stream. So thank you guys for the chats. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the questions. It was really fun to do a Q&A. I'll do more when we have more Q's to A. In the meantime, definitely check out Heather's channel if you haven't already. I hope I gave valuable info to you guys. Feel free, like reach out to me. Where's my here we go. Social media, pretty much on all the things. I'm So Darn Tom, Twitter and Instagram. So if you want to like send me things or whatever, look me up on there. You can contact me there. Also, in the video description of all my videos, or in the about page of the of this channel, there's email links, theenthusiasmproject@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out in any way you want. And if you just want to say hi, if you have an idea, if you want to work together on something, let me know, because that's really the beauty of this format, is that it can be a two-way situation. Steven, I was wondering if you could send me a little test model. Yeah, send me an email to theenthusiasmproject@gmail.com, and we'll figure that out. That's no problem. Jim, where can I send questions for next time? I collected all of these questions from video comments, but I should probably, for now, just send them to theenthusiasmproject@gmail.com, because that way I can just put them in a folder. And Jeff Woodham, what would you recommend for your first video camera? For a first one, I would recommend, if you're moving beyond your phone, I would go with a really nice point and shoot. Sony, this is one I talked about earlier. It's $1,000, but Sony makes one. I think it's the HX90. That's like $350. That's very similar form factor. Not quite the same image quality, but really good image quality. Does photo, does video. Something like the Canon S110. They're these little point and shoot cameras which you don't really associate with being video cameras, but they're super small, portable, reliable, and get great quality video. I would kind of stick with those just because they're so versatile. Make sure it has a screen that flips and articulates, so at the very least you can be in front of the camera and see what's happening, because that is an immensely helpful thing. And then going into the world of DSLRs, there's you know, anywhere from $400 for like a Canon Rebel up to an infinite amount of prices depending on what you're doing. But for a very first one, I'm not really recommending a dedicated video camera, even though there are really some great ones out there. Just because I feel like they're just so small, portable, and powerful that it's just, you know, why not take advantage of the small size? Because then you're more likely to have it with you, and the best camera is the one that you have with you. So the more you have it, the more you'll use it. So that's what I would recommend for first video camera. Links to my equipment are all in the description below if you want to know what I use. So that is pretty much that. I think I promised to play the drums for a second. You're welcome, Jeff. So I guess I'll play some drums before we sign off for today. Sorry, Heather. Yeah, I don't know what to play with the drums. I'm going to turn this mic down a little bit. If you're listening on headphones, just know, I don't know what I'm going to play. I thought I learned, I got this really cool piccolo snare that is really great for fills and stuff. I don't know if you can still see me over there. Let me turn this monster of a camera over. there. Try to zoom in. There's 16 millimeters, 35 millimeters. I can move this mic out of the way. There we go. So thank you guys for watching. I, again, was not planning on playing drums today. So those are my skills. So if I blow out your eardrums, I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. Let me try to think of like a fun song to play on the drums. Forgot to mention, I put new drum heads on all of these things, and it's so fun now. So I got this piccolo, which is like... so there you go. Let's see. To end this live stream, do you know why you can't trust atoms? Why can't you trust atoms? Because they make up everything. That's enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't unsubscribed, thank you. And I will see you guys next time. And hi, Seychelle and Steven. Would I ever display a YouTube channel from students? I don't promote it directly to students, but there is a poster in the classroom, and you guys found it, so it's there. Yeah, so there you go, BK Hobby. Drums. I'll see you guys next time. Leave comments, send things, watch videos, keep the conversation going, because that's super fun, and I really, really, really appreciate all that you guys have done for me and all that you let me do. So thanks for making this a super fun very first Q&A session for me. I'll catch you guys next time.